Okay, hello everybody, it's Jackie. I'm back again and I'm going to do another Inspired By today from my friendship challenge, and this is Lynn. She's Lynn Yvonne 2, I think, on YouTube, but I'll put the link underneath. This is the piece she sent me, a lovely 1, 2, 3, triple 4 pocket sort of insert for a journal. Before I go any further, somebody on my last video said that they weren't able to hear me very well. I'm going to try and speak up a little bit if I remember, but unfortunately what you see is what you get. I don't do this professionally. I do it because I enjoy it. I like to share as well. I don't have a microphone or anything like that, and I'm not going to get one. You could try, obviously you can try turning your own speakers up, or maybe use subtitles. I have written some measurements down this time, so I will show you those. But hopefully most of you can hear me well enough. So this is the piece that I'm taking to start as a starting point. But before I do that, Lynn is also doing, again, before I do that, Lynn is also doing a friendship challenge. And this is the piece that I've made for her. This is a fabric postcard, and I've just layered up Pelmet Vilene, which is quite a stiff interfacing, fabric, lace, paper. This is an image of Mata Hari, who was a World War I spy, a lady who fascinates me. If you don't know about her, her story is worth looking up. And I've just added some bits of lace, some sari silk. This is some applique that I've cut from a piece of fabric, and then I've put some little bead clusters just to add a bit of texture. So that will be going to Lynn for her challenge, and I'll put the link for that below. So the piece that I'm going to make, I couldn't decide. Again, I was looking at, she also made this beautiful card. So again, I could have taken die cuts, could have taken this lady, the colours, the turquoise and the pink, which is beautiful. But in the end, I decided just to go with the basic pocket shape. And this is what I came up with. So it's, I've turned it into a tag, because you all know I like making my tags, and it's also a little ephemera holder. So it's very simple to make, but I will go through it with you if you'd like me to. If you'd like to stay along, we'll get started. So you will need a piece of card, 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. You'll need some backing paper, and I had some Tim Holtz. I had a whole strip of Tim Holtz that I'd cut off something else. So I used part of it on this one, the full length. Hadn't got quite enough length left, but it won't matter because our pocket's going over here. So it's backing paper, basically the same size, 3.5 by 6.5, or a bit shorter won't hurt. And then we need a piece for the pocket, and I had a book page, which I cut in half. And so that's also 3.5 inches wide, and again the length doesn't matter. We're going to fold the top down and we can cut the bottom off. So you want it at least almost as long as your piece of card. And then the second pocket, and I'm using a bit of vintage map, is 3.5 by 2.25. So to start this off, I'm going to put the backing paper on. I'm stitching all mine again, so I'm only gluing, sort of roughly gluing it down, and I'm using an acetone based glue. It's Collall all-purpose glue. So that's going on there, and it is slightly wider than my tag, so I'm just going to cut that piece off. Okay, so that's the initial back. I could have had that at the top, but it's quite busy, that piece, and I think for this, because this is quite busy, this piece of paper that I'm using here, I think this plain a bit is better. So the next thing I did was cut my corners for the, let's move that up slightly, cut the corners off for my tag shape because I wanted to keep it as a tag shape. You don't have to keep it as a tag shape, it wouldn't really matter which way around you did that. So that's my tag shape, and then I want this piece of paper, I want the first pocket to start at this point, but I also want it, if you remember Lynn's was very diagonal, she'd also got a little bit across here and I decided to leave that in. And when I was doing this one, if I take these things out, you'll see that I left, this is just by luck. I mean, any old book page would do for this. It doesn't really matter. This is a floral botanical book. But I left the words birds, the mountain, streams showing on there. So on this one, I've got back to the woods. So I thought maybe we'd leave that showing. So I'm just going to fold this down, leaving, we've got this line here, so we can line it up so that it's straight. Okay, whenever I make a fold, I like to use my bone folder, and that's going to fit on there, and that actually works out quite nicely because that red picks up that red there. Again, that's just luck. We won't turn that off for a minute. So to tack this down, because I'm going to stitch everything, I'm not going to tack it down, sorry. I decided to stitch this down on here. So I went round with my sewing machine on this piece. You could leave the bottom open and you would have another little tuck spot, but I'm going to do the same. I'm going to stitch that round on here and then I'm going to stitch it down to my tag. So I want that to be the same size. It moved slightly because it's slightly slippery. Probably would be easier to do it afterwards, to be quite honest, but anyway, let's keep going. I'll get it set up and then I'll stitch it. Hopefully you've all seen that by now. So that's going to go on there like that, and I will have to straighten that up because I've got a bit wonky. So I'm going to also ink, just lightly ink that edge. I'm using walnut stain distress ink. And then for this piece, because it's vintage map page, I wanted just to fold the top over, just to give it a bit more strength at the top here. And I've decided that I'm going to use the plain side. So I'm just going to sort of, sorry, I'm out of frame. So about ½ inch, just about ½ inch. And before I stitch everything round, I'm going to stitch along here. So before I do the final stitching, I'm going to go round this triangle here that you can see, stitch that down. I'm going to stitch that down, and then I'm going to use a tiny bit of this art glitter glue here and here, glue that to my tag, and I'm going to do the same with this, except I'm going to glue here and here, and then, so it'll be like that, and then I'm going to stitch, once these are tacked down, so they're not going to move when I stitch, I'm going to sew round the entire outside edge. So what I'm going to do now is go away and do that, and then I'll come back and show you quickly how I finish it off. Okay, so we're back to finish off. This is my tag stitched around. I've stitched the triangle down first and this top down first, and then I went round the edge. Excuse me, leaning over. I'm just going to very lightly take the sort of white edge off. I've used white card on the back. My sewing machine was quite happy to go through, it's quite heavy card on the back, and obviously with down here we've got 3 or 4 layers, but my sewing machine was quite happy to go through all of those. If yours isn't and you want to sew, you can always sew around the pockets first separately and then glue them onto the tag base. Okay, so down here I've got 2 bits of red here. That's sort of, and I kind of like 3 things in threes, like a lot of people. So I did do a little collage on this one, so I'm going to do something similar here. So this is literally a bit of paper that I've just picked up off my floor. It's a bit of old book page, you know, the bottom piece of some book or other, I don't know which one. This word was this page, the bit I cut off the bottom had this word on it amongst others, so I thought I will straighten that up. It says, back to the wood that sing of the, obviously that's not the word that was there, but it kind of goes. So I'm going to pop that there. And then I've got a Tracy Fox label with a little bit of red around the edge, one of the small, I think it might be her numbers. I'm just going to pop that here, just to make a little cluster there. So that's just adds a bit of interest at the bottom there. And next we're going to do an eyelet. Oh yeah, I haven't got my measuring thing, so I have to eyeball this. Excuse me a moment. Okay, and what's happened to the eyelet? Over to get one. So for this I'm just using Crocodile, just checking again that I've got it pretty central. Okay, and I've got a little bit of grey chiffon ribbon here, so I'm just going to pop that through the top. Like that, which is fine. You could leave that like that. I did wonder about tying a bit of this lace through or round in a bow, so we can just try that and see what that looks like. I quite like a bit of pretty. So that's, you do have to fiddle a bit with bows, even thin ones like this. There we go. And then it's just a case of deciding what you're going to put in this little holder. For the one I did before, I chose a couple of old photographs from the 1930s and a library card, which I did a bit of fussy cutting, and this is a bit of seam binding, and they popped into the back pocket. And then in the front pocket I put, I didn't want to hide too much of this colour, so I put a blank tag. I put a little slide, vintage slide. This is a vintage dance card. I think the idea was that the men had one and the boys had one and the girls had the other, and you found, sounds a bit sinister these days, but hopefully it was innocent then. I don't know, maybe it wasn't. There's a little glassine bag with some cigarette cards in, and I popped a little Tim Holtz girl in there. So that was the finished, my version of Lynn's entry into my friendship challenge. So one of these will be winging its way to her as a thank you, plus my entry into her challenge. And thank you all for watching. Bye bye.